So as you know, listeners, these Badminton Diaries are brought to you by Voltz. And we thought it would be quite fun to give you some top tips. If you've got an electric bike or you're thinking about getting one in the future, some top tips, some advice from Alan on how to make sure your bike is kept in the best possible conditions. So we're going to have one top tip a day for you. Alan, what have you got for us today?
Don't leave the bike outside in all the weather. You need to keep it under cover. We sell specifically bike covers designed for e-bikes. Come and see us, get one of those.
Look after your bike. You wouldn't leave your horse out in all weather without a rug, would you, listeners? Let's be honest. Well, some of you might, but you don't do it. Don't do it. You'll regret it later. There you go, listeners. There is your top tip of the day on how to keep your electric bike nice and healthy and happy, and make sure it's always ready to do its job. Alan, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're wrong, and an Aperol is greater than Pimms.
Order in the courthouse. Honestly, listeners, they are totally uncontrollable. Look, post cross country day at Mars Badminton, and we are of course back with another Voltz Badminton podcast diary. I've got the whole team gathered around a jug of Pimms, toasting a brilliant day of cross country. Dee and Rory were currently debating between an Aperol Spritz and a Negroni. You've just tried your first Pimms, Rory. First of all, did you like it? What's the verdict?
It was enjoyable. I'm not going to lie just to appease people. It was refreshing, but probably an Aperol for me. More enjoyable.
Okay, Dee?
What's the question? A choice between an Aperol or a
Negroni.
Oh, Negroni for me. I think a Negroni is a more sophisticated adult drink. But again, not here to judge. Drink what you want. Just drink responsibly.
Love that you just had to get that little bit of an admin in on the end. Rosie and GP are here as well, and we are going to look back on the cross country from today. So first of all, GP, I'm going to come to you. Headline numbers on cross country day. What was the outcome?
So we ended up with a 48% clear rate, which on Eric courses we've had 53%, and then averaged 16.6 time penalties. So Eric has been managing to get around 19 penalties, so certainly a bit faster than that. And then we had Lucy Lassiter coming in as our fastest rider, still adding 1 second.
So nobody inside the time. Thank you, GP. I feel like that was the weather report, but the stat report. Okay, listeners, we have one mic between... How many of us are there? 5 of us, because we've used all of our mics so much today that we've run out of battery. So I'm going to whiz round everybody. First of all, Tim Price, our overnight leader with Vitali. And he has, big questions to answer tomorrow. We're going to come on to that. But first of all, I just want to touch upon the fact that actually this horse cross country, his record, D, is something else. Because actually, this is now his 6th clear round in a row at 5-star.
It is. Thanks very much, Nicole, for putting that one on top of me. I saw that stat being prepared, but I was in the middle of another piece, so I actually paid little attention to what you were doing at the time. So what I was looking at the time, yes, amazing cross country amazing cross country history from Vitali, and an amazing cross country rider generally. Nicole, what I was working on at the time is another angle on Tim, which was. He's now led 6 5-stars, converted in 4, 6 different horses as well. Vitali comes back for the first time. GP shouting at me. Yeah, he has led in 6. So... Yeah, sorry. GP shouting at me here that this is number 7. So Vitali comes back now for number 7. And Vitali was the horse, of course, that had the rails at Birdie when we saw Oliver win. Do you know who of every other horse won? So who, apart from one, who lost and where?
Wesco, Kentucky, 2016? 15. 15. Okay.
2. Who won?
Rakana, Michael Young.
I'm Nickers.
Try and catch me out there like that.
I was trying to give you one back over the court. But yeah, a really exciting day for Tim. And hey, you remember the preview, don't you? Remember I said people, there'll be lots of talk, lots of cheap shots. And by the way, I do think there's a lot of, joking aside, I do think there is a little bit too much talk around the Vitali show jumping history. yeah, he's had rails, but he has had a clear as well at Thoresby, and Nereo had rails. Classic Moe had rails. There is loads of horses that have found themselves in this situation, and I know because I was the person saying they can't win. And if I've learned one thing, it's not to say that they can't win. Vitali can win. Vitali has a 30-odd% win chance on the prediction centre. It's not quite as high as Tim Price, or sorry, it's not quite as high as William Fox Pitt, 57%. But it's too easy to think that the leader who has previously had rails, and yeah, he's had three rails at 5-star, I think, in his last 3 5-stars. I think be very careful going down that line of questioning. Tim Price can win this.
Of course he can. He's a genius. Like, Tim Price is brilliant. Vitali is actually a very good jumper. He gets worried, he gets nervous, and then he has rails. Hence why when he has one, he gets worried and nervous even more because he's had a rail, and then he has more. I don't think you can deny the fact that he has had those, but for me, it's not about a clear round at Thoresby. It's about the fact that the man sat on top of him is an absolutely phenomenal horseman. And this would be some story for Tim. And actually, for Joe and Alex Janamore, who own the horse, who've been massive supporters of the sport. They've had horses, going back with Daisy Barkley and been big supporters of the New Zealand team. And actually, the sport needs people like that to really invest. And I think it's going to be a big day for him tomorrow. And I think if anybody can do it, Tim Price can do it. Okay. Second, before we go on to talk about what could be one of the biggest stories of the weekend, let's go and hear what Tim had to say after his cross-country round.
This is your 6th consecutive 5-star jumping clear with Vitali, more than you've had on any other of your horses at 5-star.
Right.
Would you rate him as your best 5-star horse you've ever had?
I've got 3 5-star winners back home.
I know, exactly.
all in good health. I think he's got some attributes that are second to none. I was just saying in the finish that I don't think I've had another horse that. Skyboy was pretty good, but in terms of cross country, not knowing another option, he doesn't even consider there to be a runoff option. Like if we had a problem, it would be like maybe a fall or just some incident that was random and unavoidable. Or, you know what I mean? He's a fantastic horse, but he's 5. Has he been? Did you say 5 times he's gone clear for me cross country? 6 now. Yeah. So that's incredibly special. But to be one of my all-time greatest horses, he's got a little bit more to do for me and for him.
Okay, Tim Price. Sometimes you just got to get it done out on the cross country. Right. William Fox Pitt last won here in 2004. 20 years later, he is bidding for his 15th 5-star victory at Badminton. And I should just say, he's won 14 5-stars, bidding for 15. They've not all obviously been here at Badminton, but he won here in 2004. He won here in 2015 with Chilly Morning as well. Would be some story if Grafenacht could pull this off. And Rosie, I just want to actually kind of touch upon the outpouring of kind of emotion and support and everything from the whole of the Fox Pit team and everybody that had been involved as he came through the finish, because he has been through a lot the last few years. He has been at the top of the sport for a very, very, very long time, but actually he rode as well today as I think I have ever seen him for a very, very, very long time.
He was absolutely class, and what was so lovely is when he crossed the finish line, the swarms of people, like he's such a monumental person in this sport, the swarms and swarms of people that came around him. I mean, there was multiple children. I don't know how many of them were his, but they did all. Don't ask questions, Rosie. Don't ask questions. They did all come and celebrate with him, and it was great to see, and it just showed what a key figure he is in the sport of eventing. And I mean, in the mix zone, he said that he felt unfit and that it wasn't his best. However, I agree with you. I think he rode phenomenally, and he was class out there. So even if he felt a little unfit, he definitely didn't show it because it was a superb round.
He was second, third fastest of the day. One thing I think it is for certain, there would not be a dry eye in the house if he won tomorrow. He has also been dangling the retirement carrot out in front of lots of people of going, I might, this could be my last badminton, I might finish. The boys are giggling in the corner, listeners, because I said dangling a carrot. Honestly, they're so immature. Right. On that note, there wouldn't be a dry eye in the house. And I have to say, I'm sure Alice has been after him to retire for years. But actually, we caught up with Alice a little bit earlier on, and Dee spoke to her, and this is what she had to say.
I'm here with Plunks. It's the Saturday evening of cross country. My goodness, badminton, horse trials again, another massively influential cross country day, an emotional cross country day. Probably none more so. Is there anyone else that felt it more than Alice Fox-Pitt? Plunks, where to start?
Well, do you know what? It's been amazing. Sort of since Maryland and where we all saw the True William. I think, the eyes have been on badminton. When you take us back to 2015, which was when he won on Chilly Morning, and we had this amazing year, he won badminton, and the Queen recognised that by inviting us to go racing at Ascot, and we went for lunch, and she sat next to him, and she celebrated the badminton, because we all know that where badminton sits, in terms of recognition. And we were on top of the world. And we went to Leicestershire and Yorkshire with two lovely horses, and our world was smashed to pieces. And he took a horrendous fall, and I was with the kids watching rugby, and I went out there and arrived, and I can't really put into words, where we were at that point. It kind of, because he's such a competitor and he was being treated as a recovering athlete, everybody put everything, and we're so grateful to World Class to put everything into him to get him to the Rio Olympics, which at the time, now looking back, seems crazy. And that time then after the games and moving on to now, keep questioning, is this the right thing to do? Are we taking too much risk? Are we facilitating someone to be at risk, or are the horses facilitating the recovery? And we kept coming down on the side that the horses were facilitating the recovery. And this mare, she's been so consistent and unbelievable. She's kept him believing that he can do it, because there's been times where his head has let him down and he's not remembered the dressage, or he's gone the wrong way in the show jumping, or weird things that he can't work out, and he's just kept on working really, really hard. And he was the first horse he rode back in Leicestershire and Yorkshire after the fall, and she finished fourth, and everybody celebrated, and it was incredible. Then she kept on building on that, and she was going to win in Tats. She had the last fence stand. Then she went to Buccolo, she finished second. Then she came to Bicton, she did it. She came out and came here at just 11 years old, having 2 years of COVID, and made him believe again. Then went to Maryland, and he came away from there going, that was incredible. I felt like myself. And it was a weird feeling coming into badminton, because we were talking on Monday and we said, you're in the best form. He won an advanced class coming into it. We look back through the records. 2021 was the last 4-star short he won. 2013 was the last advanced national class he won. And I said to him, look, you could win badminton, but you won't, because that's not what happens. That doesn't happen. And here we are. And I can't even describe to you today the love and the amazing support, and having our 4 kids, Will's brother and his 2 sisters, my mum, his mum, all our cousins, all our old owners, Becky Elvin in the press tent, who used to be our PA, Hannah Vowles, who used to be our PA working in the Mars tent. So many people have been with us over the last 22 years, and to be here now in this situation, you're not owed this in sport. You're not owed in the twilight of your career to be where we are now. It doesn't happen, and to be here now just feels the most unbelievable privilege, and I'm so proud of him, because I can't even describe the work and everything that is put into being here now.
I think the love and the pride that we have in William, the rider who has won more 5 stars than any other rider in history, doesn't depend on what happens tomorrow. And I think you're right when you say sport doesn't owe you anything. That love is so real and so genuine, and I think the sport now, not just the tens of thousands that will be here coming through the gates tomorrow to watch another moment in history unfold, but the sport, I think, around the world holds its breath for tomorrow afternoon. We'll all be thinking of you.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful, and listen, if support and love gets you a win, I tell you what, he'll be there. But we know her show jumping record isn't great, but however it plays out tomorrow, today has been an extraordinary day, and I just feel incredibly lucky that he's well and he looks so great, and he was the William that we know and we've enjoyed since 1989 when he first rode here. 25 completions on 16 different horses. Badminton has been an incredibly special place for us with those 2 wins as well.
Thanks, Flunks.
Can he do it? Dee, you actually said on the preview show that this could be the fairy tale, but not quite. Are you standing by that now? He's 57% win chance.
I actually don't know. I mean, of course I don't. I was going to say I don't know what happens tomorrow, but of course I don't know what happens tomorrow. Haven't yet worked out what the angle is. I think the what I told you coming into the competition was that Emily King would come third, Grafanacht would come second, and Vitali would win it. If I'm making any change to it, it's only that Emily King will win it. I think it's between those 3. Sorry, that sounds so obvious. Of course, it's between those 3. I think it's a rare case where the truth of the likelihoods is in the prediction centre. It's more likely than not now that William does win it. Then it's Tim, who you hold on and you say you get that big strong rider strength for a Vitali and a Tim first ever win here at Badminton. But Emily King is the class jumper in the field. So Grafanacht, expected on our numbers, on our high performance numbers, has a 5.7 on their expected show jumping rails. What that means is it's kind of likely that they have won, but not necessarily more than that. I think off the top of my head, Vitali's expected show jumping value is something like 6.8. What that means is that so 6.8, it's closer to basically 2, just closer to 2 rails. It doesn't. Georgia's showing me now. What is it? 7.8. Okay, so basically that's suggesting probably it could be 2 rails for Grafanacht. It could be 2 for Vitali, 1 for Grafanacht. Valmy Bietz is pretty good. Valmy Bietz is pretty good. I mean, you look at the clears; it's a long line of clears.
He has 1 rail in his last 7, and that was the first fence at Burley, which was a bit of an unfortunate one.
Valmy. They'll jump with all the expectation and pressure of being an Emily King or being a king, being a king, being of the king line. Does that make sense? Like being the daughter of, the greatest of all time, or one of the greatest of all time, jumping in the top 3 at Badminton. But she's probably got the best jumper in the top 3, and she can jump.
Let's not forget she's in 4th. We'll come on to 3rd in a second at the moment. But I would also say less pressure jumping in 4th because you get to climb. I'd say Tim Price would have quite liked to have been jumping in 4th. And then he could have climbed the leaderboard with the potential clear round. Let's talk about the lady in 3rd, because her Badminton debut, the most extraordinary story, Lucy Latter, RCA patron saint, have delivered the fastest round of the day, 1 second over the time, agonisingly close to stopping the clock on the time of 11 minutes 18. Before we go in to discuss that round, actually, I caught up with Lucy a little bit earlier, and we can find out a bit more about her round and actually her story of getting to this point as well. The lady of the moment, the fastest round of the day, Lucy Latter, 1 second over your first Badminton. Has that sunk in right now?
Maybe not quite. I had every faith in the horse that he was able to go out and do a good time and attack the track and take it all in his stride, but to get there and actually do it and be only 1 second over probably hasn't sunk in just yet.
Talk us through your round.
Yeah, so thanks, Mike. So I set out on a good gallop. I wanted to be up and around my minute markers for the first 3-4 minutes that was on the good ground. He was really good at Huntsman's, like he felt very switched on and on it. He's super brave through water, so I didn't really have too much worries in my mind. I was like, once I get in there and I get my line and I get everything, I knew he would do it. And then down the bottom, kind of just had to give him a little bit of a breather. It's a little bit softer down there. He doesn't bat an eyelid at ditches, so I had no worries about any of those ditches or the Vicarage V.
No worries about the Vicarage V. Can we just take a moment? No worries about the Vicarage V, people. Okay?
Yeah.
You're mad.
No, honestly, it's just the horse I'm sat on. Like, he gives me so much confidence and I have so much faith in him. Like, I know in my mind, walking up, so when I'm walking the track, I'm like, he won't look at the ditch, so I shouldn't look at the ditch and ride it like a normal fence because he won't make anything of it. So he did that today and just proved how great he is. And then, he took a little bit of a breather up around minute 9, galloping back up the hill towards the log pile. He jumped the gate well, and then he really picked up for me on the turn to home when he saw the crowds and everything. So,
did you think you were almost going to do it?
Yeah, well, for the last few minutes, like I wasn't even on my looking at my watch. I was just kind of feeling what was underneath me and like gauging how much I could like keep kicking him to keep galloping, and just feeling what I had underneath me. He kept jumping the whole way. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to kick down the hill and all the way to the finish line, or if I needed to like just let him get his breath and jump the fences in his own rhythm. But he really picked up for me. So the watch kind of went out the window for the last few minutes. You just have to ride what's underneath you and just go as fast as you can within what the horse is capable of.
What was that feeling like coming back to the main arena?
It was something else. That, like, it feels a bit like a bit of a blur. Like, there's everything comes up so quickly at you. You're constantly doing so much. So yeah, to jump the last and to have been clear, and like, I knew I was close to the time. I wasn't actually sure how close. But yeah, to be 1 second over, it was just like, I was so delighted and proud of the horse. Yeah.
And your family has a huge equestrian wealth of knowledge and accolades to their name. Your grandfather rode here in the 70s.
He did.
Your cousins are Izzy Power, who's obviously had great success here in the Fast Island. Robbie Power, who's won the Grand National. Have you always grown up knowing that you wanted to be able to compete at this sort of level?
Yeah, I was hopeful. Like, I don't do it full time. I work a full time job. I work for White Claw as a brand manager, so I absolutely love doing that. So I do it as professionally as possible, and like, I look at it as a second job rather than doing like eventing as an amateur. Like, I keep it as professional as I can. But he's probably the first horse that I've had that like I thought was capable of doing like these really meaty, like Badminton Burley type tracks. So when I had him, I kind of was thinking, yeah, he could go to one of these big 5-star tracks. The horse I had previously probably weren't. They wouldn't have suited these kind of tracks. So yeah, when I got him, I was like, oh, this could be on the cards now.
And in terms of the racing influence, you are based with Izzy.
Yeah.
Have you tweaked your fitness routine together to actually get him fit for this?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky. I only moved up and based with Izzy for the 5 weeks previous. I'm usually based in Wexford, down in my family yard. And my brother also trains pointers from there. So we have a gallop at home. So I know how to get him fit off of that gallop, and his early galloping work was done on that. It's a sand up a hill, so my brother's training racehorses off of it, and I can use that for Paddy. And then I moved up with Izzy 5 weeks before, and she's a circle gallop, so she kind of showed me the ropes. She's gotten horses fit 6 times for Badminton, so she knew exactly the routine that gets them plenty fit enough. So I was following her guidance to get the last bit of long stamina work into him before we got here.
I was chatting to her yesterday after your dressage. I said, oh, is he fit? And she went, he's fit.
He's fit, yeah. He's fit and he stays galloping. So, you know, I had every faith in him that he would stay going.
What are your thoughts going to tomorrow's jumping?
Yeah, he feels good, and he will hopefully have a nice rest tonight. He's improved a lot in the show jumping, but obviously he has never gone 11 minutes 19 seconds and jumped that big before, so we'll just have to see what we have underneath us. Hopefully he'll come out fresh and well and jump well, but yeah, it'll be a first time for him jumping after such a long distance, so we'll just have to see what we're riding.
And you have got to dash off because press conference top 3. You've moved from 46th after dressage up to 3rd over Lucy Latter. Congratulations.
Thanks so much, Nicole.
She is one cool customer. Honestly, she has been absolutely class all weekend. She has taken all of the media attention in her stride. She is sat on a horse that she trusts implicitly. She has probably the least to lose of everybody in the top few. RCA patron saint, 1 rail down at Blenheim last year. She said, he's not jumped on the final day of a 5-star after that kind of track before. She doesn't know what to expect. She's going to enjoy it. Rosie, honestly, if we'd have flagged up a horse to going inside the time coming into the competition, Sarah Ennis Grantstown Jackson was the one that we were kind of picking up as one of the fastest horses in the field. Lucy has had rails in the past, but there is almost that kind of naivety danger factor here, that she can go into the main arena with nothing to lose, and actually she could well do this.
Wouldn't it be magical if she could do it? I mean, this is only the second time since 2008 that there's been an Irish rider in the top 5. Austin O'Connor last year was the first. So it really does show the climb of the Irish. But my gosh, that would be electric if she managed to do it. And we said people were going to climb today. She's done exactly that. She was 43rd after dressage.
I think she was 46th, and then there were a few withdrawals. I mean, that's an extraordinary climb. She's climbed 43 places. That is absolutely magic. Lucy, the cousin of Izib, who's here helping her this weekend, as we've said, she really believes in her. And actually, she's taken everything in her stride to this point. Watch this space. It could be a real fairy tale. Right. Emily King, we've already talked about. Dee? Coming back to you, he's literally about to wrestle the microphone from me. Listen, might just hold on to it for a second.
She is so dramatic. You wrestle the microphone. I'm sitting just for clarity. I'm sitting on the far side of a table, and I am so far from wrestling the microphone. Anyone who's ever tried to wrestle the microphone from Nicole Brown would know that wouldn't be a wise move. Sorry, Nicole. The only thing I wanted to come back to before you finished on Lucy, you're right. I mean the jumping is a kind of more Vitali-esque jumping record, but the great but is that you're allowed. Nicole, do you remember, Nicole and Rosie, we sat in Burley, whatever it was, 8 months ago, and it was one of the happiest memories of the team last year, where we had Sam having delivered a great cross-country day kind of on the pitch, and then off the pitch we had, Nicole, you had done huge work that weekend in multiple capacities. The whole Ecoratons team, we'd all, it just felt like everything was coming together that Saturday night. It was a really special thing. I'm bringing myself there now for someone else. That's what Lucy Latta's whole family have now this evening. To sit in the top 3 at Badminton is a dream come true. To do it, I remember, when I was with Camilla and Nicole, I remember knocking around with Lucy Latta. We'd be in I don't know where, Ballindennis, Torella, all these places. Her mother Yvonne is the soundest, greatest laugh of a woman. She mind you, she's a real Irish mother. And she was so kind. She looked after so many people, and I'm imagining, and I'm going to probably have to go and find her now in a few minutes, but I'm imagining that somewhere over by the lake, Yvonne Latta. Do you know how you'd know Yvonne Latta, Nicole? You know her. You do know, don't I?
I can't believe it.
Oh my God, I can't believe that the penny has just dropped. So that time, the first championship prize giving that I ever commentated on, was the Master of Ceremonies on, I should say, Bishop Burton Junior European Championships 2014, when the Irish team, led by a very young Cathal Daniels, but also that included Lucy Latta, won the team gold. And when they were in the prize giving, they played the Irish national anthem, and I was stood there, actually, to be honest, thinking desperately about what I was going to say next, not really listening to what was being played. And I get a nudge to my right-hand side going, Nicole, this isn't the Irish national anthem. And I'm listening and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what national anthem it was, but it wasn't the Irish. And so I sort of frantically say, oh, well, excuse the mix-up, this, that, and the other. And I could see them in the commentary box trying to find the right music. And Yvonne Latta says to me, give me the microphone, I'll sing the Irish national anthem. I wonder if there's a video on YouTube somewhere. We could try and find it. Is there? Anyway, they sing the Irish national anthem, and I'm sat there. She did manage to wrestle the microphone off me, sort of dying inside, thinking, "Oh my God, should I have given her the microphone or not?" But it was still one of those moments. I can't believe that actually that's only just dropped with me.
Yeah, that is the famous Yvonne Latta. But sorry, Alice Fox-Pitt touched on it in her interview there as well. The Saturday night is such a special time. It's got all the disappointment, you know. Like, I chatted to Sam this evening, and he's really disappointed. It's such a different feeling to where we all were after Birdie. I just chatted to Boyd Martin, same feeling, did the exact same thing. And I chatted to Laura, you know, who was in a different place with Hester and retired, but, you know, not in a sense of, probably a little bit different feeling to Boyd with Setzer leg, and different again to Sam. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got all the magic. And I think it's something that we shouldn't skip over while you can be cold, and we are cold and calculated about the sport here, and that's no bad thing. I think what brings me to the sport and has kept me in the sport are nights like the Saturday night of badminton and stories like Lucy Latta being the fastest rider at badminton, having put in a lifetime's work, really, Nicole. It is a lifetime's work for her family, for her cousin, for her friends. Jodie's here as well. Jodie, who you'll know from Horseware. They all, like Kellyanne Hutchinson, who works now with over with Caroline. They all knocked around together for so many years. And now Lucy Latta is the fastest round at badminton. She's in third. And her family are all wild over by the lake. This is what it's about, Nicole. This is it.
If you find them, please get the interview, Dee. And if, oh my goodness me, if she does manage to win tomorrow, which she's not a rail she's a rail behind Tim and William. So Tim 31.7, William 33.0, Lucy Latta 37.2. Could that 1 second over the time prove to be really, really expensive for her tomorrow? Watch this space. Emily 38.0, so hot on her heels. And then Sarah Ennis, Grantstown Jackson, who are actually brilliant for the Irish, as Rosie said. You know, 2 Irish riders inside the top 5 after cross country is huge. And Grantstown Jackson, the 3rd fastest of the day. So who else in the top 10? Well, Caroline Powell, actually, Greenacre Special Cavalier, that horse who's had some really good form at 5-star now. She just picked up a few time penalties cross country. And if she jumps well tomorrow, it is hard to look past her for that New Zealand team spot that is on offer for Paris. So I think there's a lot on the line there. Felix Vogue, Cartania, in 7th, actually was one of the rounds of the day for me. And it's really, really good to see European riders still coming over and actually taking on badminton. And fair play to him, Rosie, because actually plenty of them go to other places, Limoux, Limpopo, etc. Fair play to Felix for coming here.
Yeah, he did a super job, and I agree with you as round of the day, because it was showing up to be a difficult track, and then Felix went out and he did make it look very easy and quite effortless at times when it most certainly wasn't. So I agree, hats off to him for coming over and making such a superb job of it.
Okay, other notable ones in the top 10, Tom Jackson, Pippa Funnell, MCS Maverick. She has worked wonders with that horse all week. He blew up at the first trot up and really frightened himself, and they have basically looked after him so carefully for the rest of the week. He was escorted up to his dressage by a hunt horse. She somehow managed to coax a 31.9 out of him, which was just absolutely magic. I think it showed Pippa's impressive kind of nerves of steel under that kind of pressure, and just how good she is. She's very, very honest. She's very open with that as well, and she's worked hard to be able to do it. I think she's done a bit of sports psychology this week. I think she'd say that herself. But cross country, he was escorted up with 2 hunt horses. Actually, he'd sort of gone for the double effect, you know, and they asked the audience in the main arena to be quiet as he came in. They were all very respectful of him. And he was very, very good cross-country. Pippa, as brilliant as ever. Look, what happened to some of those key ones overnight? Well, Ros Cantor actually is lot DHI. I spoke to her down at the collecting ring later this afternoon, and he basically got a fright down at the lake and actually spooked at another fence, which set him off. He's been brilliant all week, but once he gets worried, that's it. And his run out was actually because he was spooking at a wicker basket. It is what it is. She was very, very philosophical about it. She said he has plenty of good days and his next great day will come, but it just wasn't today. So she was very open about that. Bobby Upton was disappointed with 11 penalties. She's a really fierce competitor. She still sits inside the top 20, but she had the silver birch rails. The frangible device went. With Cola, she had been in second overnight, and she was disappointed. But I think there was that degree of perspective as well that came in, because actually she, 8 months ago was learning to walk again. And all of a sudden, if you'd have told her 8 months ago that you can go to Badminton, be second after dressage, and then, you'll be disappointed with an 11 penalties, she'd have taken it. And I think, she very much had that at the forefront of her mind today, even though she is a fierce competitor. Rosie, Cosby Green, who has come over with Copper Beach. He's 18 years old. Been based with the Prices for the last couple of years. We've been following her story over the last few days, but actually she had the most fun I think I've seen anybody have out on Badminton cross country course today.
Yeah, and she actually came back and said it was great fun, which it is rare that you get people to come back and say it was fun, because it's not normally until after, when it all sinks in, that people go, okay, yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was good fun. Like, at the moment, it can feel a little bit like you're in a washing machine, but I think she really enjoyed it. She rode beautifully. She rides so professionally and so maturely. It was great to see her do so well. Does it make it even more special, the fact that you've had to give up so much to be here to compete? Like, you've left your family and your friends all at home.
Oh my gosh, completely. And I think I try to make them proud, because it's a lot of sacrifice and you have to leave. But I think having a result like this so far makes it worth it and makes them kind of support me even more. So I'm really, it means a lot. Thank you.
I want to come to you all now as to kind of what could happen tomorrow in terms of, let's make a prediction, because will William Fox-Pitt be riding off into the sunset on his Eco Voltz bike with Alice in the trailer? Who knows? If he wins, we should absolutely make that happen. Tracy and Alan will sort it out. Will Tim Price use his genius? Yeah, Alan's got no bikes left because everybody's sold out Eco Voltz. Absolutely class. You can still order one though. Alan, you'll have to build them a little bit quicker. But that's just how many days? 3 days. 3 days to build a bike. There you go. 2 bikes in 3 days, Rory says. Otherwise, basically, he's really good at building bikes, and he'll sort you one out, even if they're out of stock on stand. So there we go. Rosie? Yeah. Is it a William Fox-Pitt fairytale? Is it Tim Price Genius? Is it the Lucy Latter debut of Dreams?
I am going to say it is a celebration for Tim Price. I'm going to say Vitali's going to do it. I think he's had few occasions, as we know, where the poles have tumbled, but I think it's going to be DreamWorks for Tim Price.
Dee, who's threatening to pour Pimms into Rosie's mouth. This is the kind of frivolity, listeners, that we have to deal with here. He's actually going to do it. Oh, God. Wasn't too bad. Can I tell you this is a funny story about when I was in labour that's kind of related. So what happened was I was in labour, nobody needs to know the details, and Oliver was messing around and said, oh, I will squirt the Lucozade in your mouth like Toby would do, because he's 5. And so I was like, no, stop messing around. It was quite early days, listeners. Anybody that's had a baby will understand. It was very early on. Anyway, so he's messing around with this Lucozade, and I'm like, no. Eventually I humour him, and I'm like, oh, fine. So I open my mouth, he squirts the Lucozade. It's got one of those like sports tops, and he squirts it so hard it hits my tonsils, and I basically choke. The monitor goes mad, and the midwife comes flying in. And Oliver's like, she's fine. As I literally am like Lucozade coming out my nose. I'm coughing. I'm spluttering. He's probably mortified and basically was stood down from any kind of drink-related duties for the rest of the duration. Anyway, off-piste.
I liked it.
Did you like it, Dee? Yeah, everybody looks slightly horrified, listeners. Go on then, Dee. Reaction to who's going to win. You don't have to react to the Labour story.
I really liked the Labour story. It's hard. So, guys, as Nicole mentioned at the start of the pod, we're sharing one mic. And even if you are sharing a mic, at least let it be one of the big mics that you can pass around. But we're sharing one of those little clip-on mics, so we look ludicrous. We look like we've all huge hands holding a normal size mic. Who wins, Knickers? It is a fabulous finish coming up. Which is the best story? I think Emily King winning Badminton will... You know what's interesting? I think Emily King winning Badminton any other year would maybe, blow the top off Badminton because of her family and because of how cool it would be. But I think if anyone but William wins this year, there's going to be a disappointed crowd. That is an awful thing to say for Tim Price or for Emily King. It's obviously, Emily King will be the second best story. Lucy Latta will be the best story from an Irish point of view, not from an English point of view. I don't mean that in a tribal sense, but she's not got the badminton crowd will get behind it after a minute. But in short, if any, everyone here, the Queen's here tomorrow, isn't she? So the Queen gives, Plunks mentioned it, Her Majesty Queen Camilla, yeah. The Plunks mentions it in her interview there, the Queen was invited William and Alice after I think they won Badminton to Ascot with them, and he sat beside the Queen and talked to her about horses. This whole script is set up for William to win Badminton. This is what happens is he wins Badminton and he retires, and the party, no one flies home tomorrow night. This place will stay going all evening. It'll be a massive, massive evening party. The William Fox Pitt retirement party. It'll be an unbelievable event. But what Plunk said to me is sport doesn't owe you these kind of finishes. So it's 57%, which means it's 43% chance that we don't get that. 30% says it's going to be Tim Price that will get that round out of a tally. And then the other one is that you get Emily King, both of them make a mistake and Emily King comes through with a clear round. With respect to Lucy, I don't think they jump clear. And if they do jump clear, I think you still have to get the others to still have a fault. So I think it's between the three. I think most likely it's William. And I think most likely we have one of the most amazing, magical Sundays that we've had in badminton, possibly ever. And what I mean by possibly ever is people talk about the year Mark Todd won because of the comeback. People remember the year Andrew won was probably the most emotional one that I have witnessed in my time. And that was just because he hadn't won it. That was, and he broke his neck, Nicole is telling me, but sure, I can see that. I think it's because he had such an association with Birdie and such an association with the top of the sport and had never won here. Had came and tried so often and had never won here. And I'm not dismissing the injury. That was part of the story, but I can give you that for William as well. If we want that card, William has come back from that injury as well. I think if William wins it, honestly, Nickers, I think it's the most magical moment ever, because I think he does retire here if it happens. And winning badminton and retiring 15 5-stars, it'll be then the most ever, more than Lucinda, more than Ginny, more than Michael Young, more than Oliver. This is the greatest of all time that you're seeing now, and he's going to jump with a more than 50% chance tomorrow. So who wins it? Probably William. Probably the greatest finish to badminton that we've ever had.
There wouldn't be a dry eye in the house. GP, you've got all of the numbers, the stats, everything. Name.
Sorry, Dee, I'm going to break the thing. Lucy Latter jumping clear, but she's actually a rail behind both William and Tim. So William's going to have his rail, keeps him in second, and Tim's going to go in there, pressure off because he's got rail in hand, and his fluffy noseband is going to do him the job to come in for the win.
Now I'm going to go to the man with the most equestrian knowledge of us all. Rory, your first visit to Badminton, but you have an esteemed equestrian career that dates back to probably Aachen last year. That'd be fair to say?
Yeah, shortly before that. That was my first experience, was Aachen. And do you know what? Actually, in Aachen, I met Tim Price with Dee, and I thought, what a lovely fellow he was. And I was shouting for him today until Lucy came along, and what a fantastic story that was. So I would obviously love to see Lucy go all the way tomorrow, but I think it's probably Tim, and I'll be shouting for Tim too.
Watch this space. Right, listeners, scene is set. It's going to be an epic final day. We've got the final horse inspection to get through in the morning. We will be back with another podcast diary for you tomorrow as well, so do stay tuned. And 75 years of Badminton, and it's going to come down to a pulsating finale. GP's laughing at my use of pulsating finale. I'll take it. It's been a long day. Listeners, hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Stay tuned tomorrow. Lots of behind the scenes action for you as well, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you then.